Every man has found himself in this situation at least once. You ask her a direct, seemingly simple question, expecting an equally direct answer. Instead, you get a performance, pauses, sighs, resentment, changing the subject, and counterattacks. This isn't an answer. It's a carefully choreographed scene designed to protect, deflect, or manipulate your perception. And the more sincerely you try to just talk, the more you feel like you've stumbled into someone else's play, where you've been cast as the villain by default. It is important to understand, this doesn't happen because she is a villain out to destroy you. In many cases, she doesn't even realize she's doing it. This happens because many women have been conditioned since childhood to communicate in this exact style. Never speak directly, never risk rejection, never admit weakness, but instead navigate corners with hints, emotions, and pressure through guilt. For her, this isn't manipulation, it's a familiar survival mechanism in a world where honesty was often punished. Therefore, when you ask a direct question, she hears a threat, not interest, and launches the familiar defense script. Today, we are going to break this problem down completely. I will reveal the questions to which you should never expect an honest answer, especially if you ask in the old-fashioned way. I'll explain why, in these conversations, they simply cannot speak directly, and what lies behind their deflection, silence, or even outright lies. You will understand how phrases like "everything is fine," "this isn't about you," or "I'm just exhausted," hide a fear of losing power, a reluctance to take responsibility for words, and an effort to keep everything on her terms. This isn't about hating women. It's about you understanding the rules, stepping out of the role of the naive participant, and starting to notice not just what she says, but what she actually means. The first question on which a veto of truth is placed: how many men did you have before me? Ask this, and watch the Olympic Games of verbal gymnastics begin. You will hear the classics of the genre, "What difference does it make? The past is in the past," or the cunning variant, "I don't keep score." Complete nonsense. She knows the exact number by heart. She remembers the names, dates, places, and likely keeps a mental spreadsheet with ratings for each. But you will never hear the real number. Why? Because she instinctively feels this truth could change your perception of her value. There is an unspoken rule in such conversations. Divide by 3 so as not to scare him. Others use a loophole, counting only serious relationships and tossing casual encounters into the trash bin of memory. This is pure strategy. They understand the simple economics of relationships. The more past history, the lower the perceived price in the eyes of a man thinking about family and a future. Therefore, this information is under lock and key, like a state secret. You receive only the clean, polished version of her biography, without the unnecessary details. What's most interesting here? Many women select answers not based on facts, but on how they want to look in your eyes. Every option passes a mental test. Will he think badly of me? It's not always malicious intent. Often, it's just protection. But in the end, you aren't talking to a real person, but to her personal PR agent who filters everything to maintain an ideal image. I have an acquaintance whose girlfriend swore for a year that she'd only had 2 partners before him. Then, at a party, her best friend, tipsy on wine, spilled the whole truth about her wild college years. When confronted with the facts, the girlfriend gave a genius excuse. Those guys didn't count. That wasn't a relationship. That is the level of mental agility used to preserve the image he believed in from the start. Incredible, but that's the reality. The next question guaranteed to get a lie. What do you really expect from this relationship? The truth might sound terrifyingly direct. I want to get married within a year. Or, conversely, I'm just bored and waiting for a better option. But voicing this is too risky, as such an honest answer could ruin everything immediately. So, you get vague phrases like, "let's see how it goes," or "let things develop naturally," while she has either already named your future children in her head or is already scouting your replacement on the process. Horizon. Many women are masters at mirroring what a man wants to hear, adapting to his expectations like a chameleon. You want to hear she's not like the others? She'll say it with total conviction. You're a football fan? Suddenly, she loves matches too, and even knows the players' names. You're looking for someone simple and low maintenance? She will pretend to be the most undemanding creature on the planet, forgetting her true desires. Right until the ring is on her finger or the situation becomes comfortable for her. Only then do the masks fall, and you see the real picture. This is a strategy of survival and adaptation. Control the narrative to secure the resource without revealing your cards too early. And the most dangerous part is that she might genuinely believe her own game until the moment is right. Sometimes she herself doesn't understand where the role ends and reality begins. You only notice it by the micro cracks in behavior, accidental slips of the tongue, rapid emotional shifts, sudden flashes of irritation. These details reveal true intentions far more accurately than any words. The third taboo question: do you still think about your ex? You will never hear the honest, yes. Sometimes nostalgia hits. I remember the good times. The truth is that humans are living beings, and exes were significant parts of their lives, leaving a mark on emotions and memories. But admitting this means stepping into dangerous territory where jealousy, insecurity, or anger await. She knows this in advance, so you get the sterile answer, never, I think only of you, even if at 2 a.m. she's secretly checking his Instagram stories or rereading old messages. This avoidance of direct honesty isn't random. It's a preventive measure against negative consequences, to avoid starting a conflict over nothing. Women have learned the lesson. Truth often brings judgment, arguments, or even a breakup, so they have developed a sophisticated system of half-truths and selective honesty. They manage information to manage the outcome and keep peace in the relationship. When full transparency threatens the loss of safety or approval, transparency becomes a luxury they cannot afford. This is especially true for those who have been punished for the truth before. If you've ever thrown a fit because of her honesty, she remembered it forever. Truth is dangerous. Better to wrap it in beautiful packaging or hide it altogether. Female socialization plays a huge role here. From the cradle, girls are taught to be pleasant, smooth over corners, avoid confrontation, and always remain desirable. The rule, if you have nothing nice to say nothing, transforms into, if the truth might upset him, lie softly. This is often not even conscious manipulation, but a reflex wired into the cortex by years of upbringing. I knew a couple where the woman admitted after 3 years that she had been faking enjoyment in bed. 3 years. Why? Because the first time she tried to gently guide him, he got offended, shut down, and sulked for days. She learned the lesson. Honesty leads to punishment, and she chose acting over solving the problem. The question, are you attracted to anyone else, is simply a shot into the void to which you will never get a direct and clear answer. Attractiveness of other people doesn't switch off like a light bulb. When you start dating, we are all biological beings with eyes and instincts. But admitting that the trainer at the gym is hot or a colleague at work sparks interest is pure suicide for the relationship. She masterfully separates physical reality, where hormones continue to react to external stimuli, from the official version for you, where she is obligated to maintain the sacred illusion of your absolute exclusivity. Therefore, you hear the perfect excuse, for me, other men don't exist, while she likes that trainer's photo or casually mentions him in conversation. Remember forever, what a woman doesn't say is often more important than what she says aloud. Silence after a question, a sharp change of subject, sudden aggression in response. Why are you even asking? Why don't you trust me? This is the real answer she gives without words. This defensive aggression works as the perfect smokescreen. while you embarrassedly make excuses for your paranoia and baseless jealousy. She successfully shifts the focus away from the fact that your intuition hit the bullseye. Evasion of the topic is already a confession. Sudden coldness or switching to your flaws is a red flag. Men often take this polite lie at face value because we think, logically, question asked is greater than answer received, is greater than time to relax. But for many women, a question isn't just a request for information. It's a hidden test of your jealousy, confidence, or readiness for conflict. A trap that needs to be navigated with minimal losses. And the answer she gives isn't the truth, but whatever allows her to pass this test with straight A's, preserving peace and control over the situation. In this scheme, truth is viewed not as a virtue, but as a dangerous variable that she intentionally excludes from the equation, so that you remain calm, predictable, and a convenient resource in her long-term strategy. The biggest lie revolves around questions of fidelity and boundaries. Have you ever cheated while in a relationship? Even if she has 3 affairs in past relationships behind her, you will hear a firm, confident, "Never in my life." This isn't just deception for the sake of deception. It's a psychological defense mechanism, allowing her to believe in her own infallibility and avoid the discomfort of cognitive dissonance. Because she knows perfectly well, past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, and she is sure you understand this too. An admission would sow seeds of doubt that will eventually sprout and destroy your relationship from the inside. Therefore, history is rewritten on the fly, facts are erased, memories are scrubbed, and reputation becomes more important than accuracy. This is especially relevant at the beginning of a relationship when active self-marketing is taking place. She shows the ideal version to hook you for the long haul. You buy a ticket to a romantic comedy based on the trailer, and halfway through the movie, you discover you're locked in a psychological thriller with no refunds. The real person emerges slowly, once you have already invested so much time, emotion, and resources that leaving would be difficult and painful. It is at this moment that the masks begin to slip, and you see that promises of loyalty were nothing more than a marketing ploy. This calculation is cynical but flawless. By the time the truth starts leaking through the cracks in the legend, your biochemistry and attachment will become her main accomplices, forcing you to forgive things that would have caused an immediate breakup at the start. Women often justify this by saying, the past doesn't matter, but in reality, it's a way to avoid responsibility for their patterns. In her understanding, loyalty is often not an absolute constant, but a flexible concept that can stretch depending on circumstances and mood, while remaining formally intact in her stories. Men fall into this trap because they believe in honesty at the start, unaware of how carefully the script is being prepared. As a result, you spend years with a person whose boundaries are actually much wider than stated, and she feels safe because she has managed to secure your attachment. Questions about your circle. What do you really think of my parents, friend? If the truth is negative, you will never know it. She will hide it securely, like a valuable deposit. She might barely tolerate your mother, finding her too intrusive or selfish, but to your face, she will say the ideal. She is so sweet and caring. She understands perfectly well that open criticism of your family is a direct path to a serious conflict where you will have to choose a side, and that choice might not be in her favor. The same goes for your best friend. If she sees him as a loser or a threat to your attention, this will remain her secret. Your friends are often competitors for your resources and time in her eyes, so the diplomatic smile at a meeting hides a cold calculation on how to gradually push them out of your life. But all the bile, criticism, and real thoughts she will pour out in the group chat with her girlfriends, where she can vent without consequences. Speaking of girlfriends, the female social circle is a true fortress, guarding all these secrets from prying ears. Girlfriends don't just listen, they actively support this selective honesty, becoming co-authors of the general version of events. This female collective mind works like a crisis center, where every risky revelation is censored and packaged in a safe wrapper before being presented to you. Don't tell him about that trip to Vegas. He doesn't need to know about that guy from work. Such advice sounds in every circle of girls. The group protects the narrative so that no one suffers from unnecessary truth. This creates a system where the outside world sees only a polished picture, while real emotions boil inside. As a result, you remain in the dark, thinking everyone is happy, while real conflicts ripen under the rug. The illusion of harmony persists only until the accumulated tension breaks the dam, turning your sudden shock into the logical outcome of her years-long game of silence. Male disappointment is born from the expectation of directness, from a being that evolutionarily learned to survive through flexibility and cunning. For a man, language is a tool for transmitting dry facts, while for a woman, it is a way of emotional regulation and hidden influence. A man plays checkers, where moves are linear. A woman plays chess, where every gesture has a hidden subtext and strategic meaning. You expect logic, but you enter a territory where the rules change right in the middle of the game. The question, "Why are you upset?" almost never uncovers the real reason because, for her, this question sounds not like a request for information, but like the beginning of an interrogation. The true reason might be something that happened 3 weeks ago, or the fact that she wound herself up reacting to an emotional echo of events you've long forgotten. But explaining this with words is difficult, shameful, and, in her opinion, would make her vulnerable to your criticism. Admitting the irrationality of her feelings means losing in the moment, which she cannot allow. Therefore, you get, "Everything is fine, you should know," or tears without explanation. In her reality, the fog of uncertainty is the best defense, allowing her to avoid responsibility for specific claims. This isn't a communication failure, it is a completely different operating system where feelings take priority over facts. The true reason stays in a deep bunker while you try to read tea leaves, attempting to fix the situation with logic where intuition and mind reading are required. Do you want to know the truth? Look at actions. Words lie. Body language, habits, and deeds never deceive. If you want to know who is in front of you, watch how she behaves when she thinks no one is looking. Pay attention to the little things, how she reacts to your gifts, who she spends time with when alone, where she looks during arguments, how her tone of voice changes when certain names are mentioned. Notice if she hides her phone when you approach, or if she avoids conversations about future plans. Does she compare you to her ex? Of course, she compares. The brain is a comparison machine. But you will hear, "You are the best. No one compares to you." While she might be noting that her ex was more generous or funnier, financial questions are another black hole. How much did that cost? How much debt do you have? Money is security. Revealing financial vulnerability is scary. Therefore, prices are understated. Oh, it was on sale. Debts are hidden completely, and then they unexpectedly surface when something needs to be paid together. In these moments, you see the real dynamic of the relationship, who takes responsibility and who prefers to live off other people's resources. Observe how she talks about her past mistakes. Does she take the blame or shift it to others? Notice how often her words diverge from reality, even in mundane things. People always show their truth in the details, not in loud declarations. And if you learn to read these signals, you can no longer be deceived by beautiful promises. And the most insidious layer of questions appearance. Am I fat? Is she prettier than me? There is absolutely no place for truth here. These are not questions. These are requests for confirmation of safety. Any answer other than enthusiastic denial will be perceived as an attack. She isn't seeking information. She is seeking reassurance. If you say honestly, "Yes, you gained a little weight," expect a storm of resentment and accusations of insensitivity. The same goes for sexual past. Details are erased. Have you done this before? The answer will depend on what image she is building now. What was normal with a past boyfriend might become, "I've never done that with you," if she decided to change her image to a good girl. Or conversely, Her fantasies might suddenly turn into experience if she wants to seem sophisticated. Would you leave if I lost my job? The honest answer depends on how long and why, but that sounds mercenary. So you get a fairy tale about paradise in a hut and I love you no matter what. But everyone has a limit. You just won't be told about it until you reach it. And then you'll find out in practice when the bills don't add up. Understand one thing. This doesn't make all women pathological liars. It makes them humans adapting to their environment. They lie to keep the peace, so it seems to them. They lie not to wound your ego. They lie because the truth in the past led to pain. How was I in bed? If it was bad, she will rarely say so directly. Because destroying a male's sexual ego is creating an enemy or a whiner. It's easier to praise and endure or discuss problems with girlfriends. In the end, both remain in an illusion until real problems surface. How to live with this? Stop being naive. Stop punishing the truth with explosive emotions if you want to hear it. But also accept the fact there are zones where you will never be fully let in, and that is normal for most. Pay attention to which questions cause her tension, shifting eyes, a sharp change in activity, or accusations against you. Where the strongest defense stands, that is where the truth she fears letting out into the light is buried. Do not press in such moments. Simply take note that is already half the answer. Look for patterns in everyday life. Don't listen to what she says about loyalty. Watch how she behaves with her phone when she thinks you don't see. Don't listen to what she says about money. Watch how she actually spends it, especially when you are not around. Behavior is the only lie detector that doesn't make mistakes or fail over time. Women capable of radical honesty exist, and they are usually older, wiser, and have worked through their fears via experience. They have realized that truth is a filter that screens out the unnecessary and attracts the compatible, creating strong bonds. But there are few of them, because for the majority, it is easier to stay in the familiar play where risks are minimal. And your task is not to be angry at the actors, but to understand the plot of the play so you can play your role consciously. When a woman cannot answer honestly, she has already answered with her evasion, her fear, her reaction. The inability to be honest is the most honest thing she can demonstrate to you in the early stages. And now I want to hear from you. What questions have you asked only to receive fog and manipulation in response? What are the most ridiculous excuses you've heard in your life? Write your stories in the comments in detail. Let's map out this trap together so that other men don't step on the same rakes. Because awareness is the first step to seeing reality through beautiful decorations and building relationships on solid ground. If you like honest breakdowns of relationship psychology without fluff and illusions, subscribe to the channel Psycheria. There are even more deep insights ahead that will change your view of women and yourself.